I was muted. Good day, everybody. Welcome to the State of the Game uh, stream for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen for July 30th, 2020. I am Ben Dean. I'm producer and director of communications. As always, we have David Ronick Schlau, our senior content creator. How are you doing tonight, Dave?
Excellent. How are you guys?
I'm doing well, thank you. And this show would not be complete if we didn't have Chris Joppa Perkins with us. Hey, Chris.
Everybody, excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Such a rare privilege to have you. Uh, so today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the game and a few things about what you're anticipating at the pre-alpha 5 shakeout. So we've got some bits of information coming there. First off, you'll be glad to know that next week we will be announcing the actual date of pre-alpha 5 shakeout. So expect to see that announcement coming out. Shortly after that, we'll be sending out, for those of you qualified, for those of you with a VIP package, we'll be sending out an email with your selection of slots, of play slots that you want to join in on. Now, in terms of the game, the build is near complete. So once the build is complete, then we're going to do a little bit of internal bug testing and squashing, or I should say testing and then bug squashing. We're going to focus on the major showstoppers first, but so anyway, all of this is happening over the next couple of weeks, so you should be able to get in game fairly soon. Now, I just want to reiterate what PA5 Shakeout is. Now, it's consider it as a warm-up weekend, so it's going to be a lot of load testing and making sure that everything isn't collapsing, smoke and sanity, making sure that we don't start any fires or set off any nukes or anything like that. And only certain features are going to be turned on for the shakeout. So the full feature list of pre-Alpha 5 proper isn't necessarily going to be available on shakeout, but you'll still get a chance to get in there and see what's going on. Try out that Pantheon that you love so much. But again, don't confuse it with Pre-5 proper. It is, a shorter term, and then the longer term, more open play sessions will be coming later. But for now, let's talk a little bit about the features of what you can expect in Pre-Alpha 5 Shakeout. So, Chris, I understand we have 2 classes available in Pre-Alpha 5 Shakeout. Is that correct?
Yes, so we're going to have 2 classes online for the shakeout.
Mhm.
It's going to be the Dire Lord and the Shaman. There's a reason for that, and there's going to be a lot that we're focusing with those 2 classes in particular. But as Ben just said, after the shakeout, we'll then move into the more focused and deeper pre-alpha 5 sessions as we work our way towards the kind of the grand open play sessions, and you will see us bringing more and more of the classes online during that period. But to start with, we're going to start with those 2 to keep it very tight and focused, and we will bring more online from there.
And
And
these are
they'll have,
Go ahead, Dave.
sorry, I was going to say, in MCP, they'll have a large arsenal of their spell abilities
Complete
and
arsenal.
Yeah.
complete
Yes,
arsenals.
that's one of the prerequisites and one of the points of the class play and the testing is to make sure that the classes are able to be tested with their full kits. And then as we bring more and more online, introducing not only those new kits, but then also the class play with all the classes together. So doing that in a more controlled, measured way to get the data that we need in the sequence that we need and growing it from there.
And then during the rest of the pre-alpha, we'll have more classes coming in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes during Pre-Alpha 5 proper, yeah. Shakeout is very short time, like it's only a couple days, so we can't get all of them in there for that time. It just wouldn't make sense. We wouldn't have time to test them all. All right. What else have we have? Oh, we've got climbing coming in, so climbing will be available in Pre-Alpha 5 Shakeout.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, it will, and it will be in even more of a polished state than you've seen it in terms of the mesh, kind of the awareness of the system to the different meshes that you're climbing on. When you're making a full form climbing system, you have to make sure that the large variety of shapes and meshes and ledges and whatnot are detectable by the system. And so we've made some really nice improvements there. And then also gamified it a bit by attaching it to the endurance resource. So you're not going to be able to climb endlessly. I know it's a big question that's come up in a lot of our streams. Is okay, you know, is there going to be any cap to this or any constraints? And the answer is yes. Climbing does require endurance, and you're going to be spending your endurance as you climb. And so our testers will get to experience the climbing system and then also experience it more as it's meant to be experienced, which is um, tied to a resource, and then able to improve that resource to through improving the climbing skill and whatnot.
And that'll be in the shakeout.
That'll be in the shakeout, yeah. But I mean, you'll have much more time to actually get your hands on, experience it as we move into PA5 proper after the shakeout.
Got it.
A lot of the work that's being done is focused around the combat system. Combat is sort of the bread and butter, the heart of any MMO, arguably, but it's what you do a lot of. Now, we've done some major work on the combat. We've touched a lot of the abilities. We've put in a new ability system that just kind of works smoother and nicer. Chris, they get to try out the new ability system.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep. So, like we said, these classes are coming in their complete state. That's important to say because in the prior pre-alpha sessions, the classes were relatively incomplete. There were some key abilities and um, some things that were just kind of in a fledgling state. And so it's really important to say that as we move into pre-alpha 5, one of the key things, our focus is on the gameplay loop and progression, and not only how the different game systems feel and work independently, but how it all flows together, the symphony of the game, the entire experience. And so a big part of that is making sure that the classes function properly and have their full kits available to them. And so that includes all the different abilities. It also includes the mastery with the abilities, and so the different mastery upgrades that you can give for each ability. So you'll really be able to get a good sense of how the classes, not only what all they have available to them, but how they grow and mature as you grow in level and um, acquire your full kit.
And that's not to leave out perception storylines, perception in general, along with quests. I know the team's been working hard there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, with perception and quests, or as we would say, the tasks where part of interacting with NPCs is going to be getting to know them, having conversations. Certain NPCs will have various tasks for you to do, which are going to be tied into the faction system largely. Uh, Faction, we've talked about faction. I think it's known that faction is going to play an important role in Pantheon, uh, and we really want to drive that deeper than just uh, the hostility or non-hostility of NPCs towards you. So I think we're all aware of the concept that the higher faction I have with an NPC, um, I can make them go from attacking me immediately when they see me to you know being more neutral towards me, to all the way potentially to being an ally of theirs. Um, and that's a big part of it. But then also when you think about it, uh, the more faction that you gain with something, it's not always a good idea to do real life one-to-ones, but in this case, the better you get to know someone, the more you spend time helping them with various things, the more likely they're going to open up to you a little bit. And we find that really intriguing, the idea that maybe there's a locked house, a locked home in Demeth Village in Avenger's Pass that just you know locked doors are intriguing. And perhaps you find out down the road that the way you actually gain access to that house is by befriending an individual in Demeth, that through doing these various tasks and whatnot to increase the faction with that individual, that you might even be invited into their home, or um, you know kind of see some more in-depth on like an individual basis with NPCs, not just my faction with Thrown Fast or my faction with the Thrown Fast militia, things like that. So yeah,
Yep.
I forgot why I was even saying that.
I'm just distracted because I've somehow reverted back to Super Mario again.
I gotta admit that sort of distracted me too. I saw people mentioning it in chat, and then I'm checking the
I
output, and I'm
don't
like, yeah,
so
you're
I
now
need
8-bit once again.
I legit need a res
Wow,
again,
you look terrible, brother.
as
Terrible.
you. I appreciate that. More terrible than usual.
So on the
Just
back end, what we're doing is we're remotely we're connecting through Discord, and it works most of the time. And apparently, once in a while, just randomly, it will kill somebody's bandwidth. And I think that's what has happened to poor Ronik live in front of your eyes. So apologies for that.
sorry, guys.
Um, so yes, now, so these are all the features of Pre-Alpha 5 Shakeout. These are the things that you can look forward to once you get in there. But we wanted to go a step further too, and wanted to sort of expand on what we still need to do before Pre-Alpha 5 Shakeout. So we'll just kind of go through this in a list order. It'll give you kind of an idea of what the team is currently up to, and you'll be able to see that way how close we really are here. So, first things first, the ability system. We talked a little bit about that. We've talked about combat. That's overgone a major change. It's been updated. It's so much smoother, and I can't express to you how much better it feels. For those of you who have been in a former pre-alpha um, session, you'll notice immediately. So that's all been updated. It also allows us, all sorts of new abilities and new sets and that sort of thing. But that's been completed. So now what we need to do is we need to get some of those abilities in game to the NPCs. So Chris, that's largely what we're up to right now, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, with so there's a certain level of performance. There's a certain level at this stage in the game when we open back up to testing again. It's critical that the quality and um, the robustness of the foundational aspects of Pantheon are rock solid and indicative of a game that is going to going to launch and be commercially successful. Um, and so, in the work that we've done to chase that down to the very root and make sure that from responsiveness, timing, clarity of information, the actual functionality of these abilities, um, down into their super nuanced effects and combinations of effects and things like that, that all those things are working and working as we would expect, meaning very tightly, very consistently. um, and that also needing to be applied to the NPC portion as well. So all the NPC abilities, the timing of the NPC abilities, the understanding of NPCs towards each other within this new ability system and its architecture is part of that. We're coming down to the end of that process, and the goal is not to make things perfect, because obviously that's what testing is really focused on. But we want to make our testing, when we do that again, we want to make it as meaningful and as helpful uh, as we can. And so the more of those things that we have the way they're intended to be and functioning properly, then the better in terms of just the speed at which we can finish this game.
And there's a bunch of new animations, right, coming in for the at least for the player characters.
Yeah, and that will continue. I mean, some of these things we're talking about PA5 shakeout largely right now. Once we get to that shakeout point, then you can expect on the pre-alpha forums. I'm probably going to continue to do those write-ups like I did before, and just kind of give a big rundown on like a lot of the specific things that you can expect to see. There's certainly a lot of things too, as the game has progressed, that we're not necessarily mentioning right now that may or may not be related to the shakeout, but absolutely will be part of what you'll see and be testing in PA5. We'll talk more about that soon.
Right. So Salacious001 and Pantheon Plus are brought up a good question. Will we get to see streaming in pre-alpha 5? Not during the shakeout, but during pre-alpha 5, we're hoping to allow that. It's still going to have to be somewhat by permission, just because there's parts in there that are difficult to sort of understand without the context of being streamed with a dev beside you. But yeah, we should be able to figure something out. More details to come once we get closer to proper as well, PA5 proper. But yeah, absolutely. Want to stream, want to empower you streamers. We got lots of you out there, and very excited to get you with some content.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've lost my notes. Where are we? Okay, so ability system, yeah, more storylines and quests have been added. I think we talked a little bit about this, but that's kind of an ongoing thing too. So there's always content coming in. Now we're working to get a boss encounter in the game, and it's probably not going to be part of PA5 Shakeout, but it is part of the milestone. So Chris, can you tell us a bit about what we're looking at in terms of bosses?
Well, yeah, to be more specific, we've had bosses in the game, and there's been we've streamed some of those things. But going back to that point of wanting to make sure that there's an intact gameplay loop and a progression, um, we it's going to be very important in pre-alpha 5 that our testers are able to experience more of an organic process of creating a character and actually moving towards that point where when we talk about this particular boss, this is a raid encounter. This is a boss that is going to require multiple groups of players at the same time to overcome, and it's going to be much more challenging than anything that certainly any of our testers have experienced before, and that's just very key because it's another aspect of the game that um, we're ready to start testing, ready to start getting feedback on. So, um, just a little hint that you've seen some aspects of this boss and this fight in some of our streams more recently, and from those streams, you'll know that this is meant to be a very uh, indicative to Pantheon type of fight because it's not only the boss itself, but it's also the other things that you need to contend with. Most notably the climate and the atmospheres at play in that fight. And so the process not only of doing that fight, testing those mechanics, but then also the progressional aspect of what are the items I actually need, we actually need, what are the ways we actually need to prepare for this, and how are those things woven into the process of leveling and preparing for something like that. So this is obviously further along in pre-alpha 5 as we get more towards those particular focus sessions. And then obviously once we get into the open play, the whole point of open play is to really allow testers to have that progression and experience the gameplay loop, to make sure that everything is fun. I mean, that's the word that goes around all the time here. Is this fun? Is this actually enjoyable? Do I really feel afraid? And is that fun? Like, yes, it's fun to feel afraid, but in all the things that are making me feel afraid, and then when I overcome that tension or overcome that thing that was making me nervous, was that fun? Does it feel like it did what it needed to do in me and in the game? Is this a shared experience that I'm going to remember? Like, these are the kind of the intangible things that it's going to be time to start making sure that we're achieving that in Pantheon.
And speaking of fun, I don't know, you guys will probably yell at me for dropping some beans here, but Black Rose Keep is not the only zone that had a little change. So testers can kind of expect a little something, something. Moving on.
I'm just waiting for
Lots
the
of good progress.
responses. Yeah. What else are we working on? we're continuing an ongoing process as well is adding the NPC population. That's being done quite rigorously. Chris, can you tell us a bit more about the pop?
Well, and it, relating to what David was just saying, the more areas that we bring online, the more that those need to be populated with um, NPCs. And our zones are very large, and there is a lot of population that goes into them. Um, and then it's just going back to the tenets of the game. It's going back to the vision and what we're trying to achieve in terms of like shared experience, contested environments, um, player migration, player push, um, the different kinds of areas that you can go, and camps that there are to find. And there's a lot that goes into the population aspect of this. And one of the last roundtables we did with myself and Convo, we talked quite a bit about these paradigms and philosophies that go into how we populate. And again, like everything, we want to make sure that we have gotten things to a place where we feel like, okay, this is definitely representative of the heart, the spirit of what we're going for. And now it's time for testers who are also very familiar with that heart and that spirit to come in and more in mass. Let's see if these things are playing out the way we expect them to. And so item or NPC population, that's something that is certainly an iterative thing. You can go through. It's kind of like writing. You write something, you come back to it a day later, and you're like, I could probably word that a little better, or it's like I could tweak a few of these things, and you start seeing like refinements. They start kind of popping out at you. And so there's been several cycles of that, which at this stage in development is very, very expected and normal. um you also have, I know we mentioned a little while back about the stat revamp, and a lot of the work we did to revisit our attributes and our the different statistics that will govern everything in the game. And as those were reworked, and that process also, and where, be it itemization and PCs, all of that work, being kind of folded in and extrapolated out to the different spheres and aspects of the game. That's also another aspect of the population work that has been a big part of what we've been doing. And then the new areas, and the new NPCs, the new quests, the new storylines, the new items, um, all those things. So, yep, it's all part of the big picture.
Too long, didn't read. The game's a lot more fun.
Pantheon
That-
Plus is
go.
asking actually a good question, which I totally forget what it was. Oh yeah. So in terms of pre-alpha 5, he's specifically asking about progression. Are we going to be able to feel the progression, to actually experience that kind of progression if we're going in short bursts? So I think you sort of outed yourself a little bit there, Pantheon Plus. For those of you who don't know how previous pre-alphas have played, and for those of you who do, you obviously know, we've only opened up the servers for a few hours at a time to let people play. That is for multiple reasons. One, it gives us manageable data instead of having like swarms and swarms of data to sift through, and two, just in terms of resources, we have a limited staff, and we want to make sure that we get all of the information that we can. So anyway, to circle back to answering your question, pre-alpha 5 shakeout will, again, it won't be like, I think we've already discussed, but it's not going to be a long play session. However, pre-alpha 5 proper, we're discussing right now. We're discussing the best ways to do that. We do want you guys to have a way to actually experience the game as it's meant to be experienced. Chris talks frequently about the core loop, and when you're experiencing the core loop, you need the time to be able to experience that. So pre-alpha 5 proper will, in all likelihood, be done a little bit differently than we've done the former pre-alpha phases. I just don't have the exact details yet, but those are all very much in discussion over these weeks as we lead up to it. So,
you lose your space again.
No, I'm just reviewing the chat just to see if there's any other questions that have come up since then. So let's take a short break from this discussion and show some screenshots. Let's take a look at some of these fresh new screenshots, hot off the monitor.
Mm.
So this is the this first one here. They're all in Fairthale. Dave, you took these. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a further progression of the shot that we released in the teaser trailer, just to show kind of a little bit how far it's come. Bruno's been kind of working on some fog effects that have really changed the lighting of the game and just really taken it to another level. This shot in particular has that sort of morning dew feel to it, and I just I just love where this area is kind of going, and we'll see some more. But this is what we're talking about, is like even these, this is Fairthale, and you'll see some evolution in this stuff. Um, you know, well, I'll just leave it at that before CP.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've switched to the second screenshot now, standing by the water.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, keep going, Dave.
No, this is not too far from where we were, just showing a little bit of how the water's coming along again, how the fog and we're starting to see a little bit in these zones, testing how a day night cycle would, it's not in game yet, but how it would look if we're looking at a different time of day, and what kind of lighting effects that it has on areas that we've seen before. But Jimmy and the world building team just have crushed this zone. It's so fun, and it just, I mean, I think these shots in particular just really give a real ambiance of what the game is going to be in a finished state. So
Yeah.
even though other areas that we'll be exploring in pre-alpha 5 aren't there yet, you can still see, you saw the progression when we ran the other streams of how it went from a kind of gray box to this sort of thing. So, we recently showed a little bit of the Black Rose Keep footage. You can see kind of where that will eventually end up too when you see these shots. But yeah, it's just, it's nice.
That water in particular, it's so nice to have it back, or have it at this stage. I mean, we did have water before, but it was just sort of, it, it was sort of and it wasn't really a joke, but something that we frequently referred to whenever we were streaming or showing Fairthale, at least that small section of Fairthale. We always knew that water was sitting there, and we're trying to, like, don't look directly at the water, always trying to steer the camera away from the water because it wasn't complete yet. But now it's all in game. It's looking
Yeah,
great.
I want to reiterate, these are unretouched
Yeah,
photos. I did not enhance anything on them. There's no color correction. There's no, sharpening. These are taken right straight from my machine to you guys. So
yeah.
this is what the game looks like, and I don't even have a 4K monitor. So.
I want
Uh,
to say something here too. Can you switch to the next
Yeah,
image? Just
I did.
okay.
I just switched.
So I don't know if it's something that's easily perceived as we go through these, but it's a really important point to me personally, and it may be meaningful to some of you too. But uh, when Pantheon is nonlinear, it's designed from the ground up to be nonlinear. Everything from our questing and story system to the non-instanced nature, the open world nature of the game. But it's also in our zone design. And one of the things that we really wanted to avoid was a game world that made you feel like there were paths, and then there was like environment, but the environment was kind of a set piece, and really there to just support the paths. It's there are certain games that make you feel like you're just in a constant system of corridors, even when you're outside. And so with what we're trying to do is really create a pretty open, non-linear approach to the environment itself, where yes, there's going to be paths, and yes, there's going to be footpaths and more significant paths, but either way, any way you turn, it's just open. And I don't mean open like it's bare, but I just mean it there's no corridors in Pantheon. There's no, forced kind of here's where you should probably go, or here's kind of where the thoroughfare is. And so that again, it's a small detail, but if you go back to the beginning, Ben, and just kind of scroll through those shots again with that context in mind, and something just to pay attention to as we show more areas. And all three of these images are from different locations in Old Wood, and looking in completely different directions. Well, I mean, I guess there you're actually looking back on where you were before, but there's no like, oh, I should go this way. It's just the world, and that's very intentional.
And I think it's important also to reiterate as well that, even within the zones where there's no paths and there's, you know, I'm still stumbling upon areas that I didn't even know existed. And there's, that sense of exploration and that we really all loved in MMOs when you stumble upon a cave, and there's a cave within a cave, like that's coming back and that exists. And, what you're talking about as far as not being on the rails, I think the team has done an amazing job of bringing that sense of adventure back to the game.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Okay.
We should go back
Screenshot
to
time is over.
the rest of the, just so we don't have to look at my Digi face.
I can put a big black block over here or something.
Yeah, I'm sure Convo would appreciate that.
So, we're gonna do something new. We're gonna try this out, see how it goes. With our streams, we're adding a new section, a new segment, which is called Hot Topic. Dave has a song for that, I think, too.
Isn't that a store?
Yeah, it is a
Hot
story.
Topic, that's true.
I think you just saved me from saying thanks, CP. I'm saving my song for patch notes.
Okay, all right. But Hot Topic this week or this month, this stream, CP, we're gonna throw this at you. We're talking a little bit about death mechanics.
Yeah, take it away, Ronak.
Yeah, I guess I would be the expert on dying in this trio here, but no, I think I think you got this, CP.
Yeah, so not that long ago now, we were able to kind of speak to our plan for the death penalty, and just want to, in case you still haven't seen that yet, wanted to go ahead and speak to that now. But the death penalty in Pantheon, before I refresh what the aspects of the death penalty are, I just want to say again quickly that um, one of the earliest and most foundational tenets is that we want the game to be challenging, and we want there to be a real sense of tension in your endeavors. Um, we don't want the game to grow stale because uh, you've you're able to circumvent any sense of consequence um, in your endeavors. And so that tension, that palpable tension that exists when there is a sting to death, is something that there's not many things that run as deeply as that in the DNA of this team, this project. And so, in thinking about the death penalty, we had to do some thinking in terms of, okay, how do we uphold that and achieve that while also honoring things like we want you to be able to have a 2 to 3 hour core gameplay session and plan around that. um, Obviously you can play as long as you want, but if we're going to be able to achieve something like that, then that's one additional ingredient we need to hold up to this commitment to a death penalty intention. um, and then also the thing that I think is there's so many things being this early in the game's development. Well, I mean, you know what I mean by that. Like we're still pre-alpha. We haven't, officially reached alpha yet. Um, but we're still at the point where it's hard to understand how challenging Pantheon is going to be. And there's so many facets to that uh, statement. One facet, and the one I have primarily in mind right now, is the way our stats work. Um, we've said for a long time we want stats to be very meaningful. We want each point of an attribute, stamina, strength, intelligence, whatever it is, to feel very significant. What that means is if you don't have any gear on, then you're not going to, even if there's a full group of players that don't have any gear on, your ability to actually get back to where you died is going to be nigh impossible, uh, because of how significant the gear that you wear is. And so when thinking about, one of the big questions that's come up is why no naked corpse runs? Why, if you want death to be punishing, then, you should respawn with nothing and have to figure out how to get back. And yeah, I understand. I've been the recipient many times, even recently, on going back to P99 Green, like, of needing to find a rogue to drag a corpse, and it's a thing. Um, but again, Pantheon is not the same game. Will corpse dragging be in Pantheon? Yes. Will rogues, because of their tool set, be able to do some of that? Sure, but not as easily and not as in a guaranteed way. It's going to take a very skilled rogue to be able to do something like that, just by the nature of the way the stealth system works. And then you add on several other factors to that. So we're making a death penalty that actually has our game in mind. And part of what the trust that needs to be extended to a degree in these decisions, obviously these things will become easier once people are able to see it and get their hands on it. Uh, but we're committed to challenge, we're committed to tension, we're committed to genuine, consequence that leads to such tension. And but we wanted to come up with a death penalty that would accomplish that and still uphold the kind of time frames we're looking for, and also keeping in mind, what it means to truly not have gear on in this game. Um, so with that being said, the way the death penalty is going to work is when you die, you will respawn at your bind spot. And I know there's some questions about, well, what does that mean? Are you able to bind autonomously anywhere you want? Are there certain classes that can, certain classes that can't? Are there locations in the game world that you can attune to as your bind spot? We will have definitive answers to that. We have definitive answers to that, but we'll talk about that more in the near future, how exactly that's going to work. But you will respawn at your bind spot. You're going to lose an amount of experience. You're going to lose a percentage of the experience that is required towards the next level. So what that means is, and there's been some questions about that too. So to clarify, let's say you're level 40 and it takes 100,000 experience to get to level 41. Then if the death penalty is you lose 10% of the experience uh, required for the next level, that means 10% of 100,000. That's how much experience you would lose at death. It doesn't have to do with how much experience you personally have towards the next level. It's a percentage of the total amount of experience you need to reach the next level. Um, you're going to respawn with all of your worn equipment still equipped. So when you die and you respawn, everything that you had equipped is going to be on you at when you respawn. However, you will leave all of your general inventory, all the bags and the stuff in the bags and whatnot, and your coin, the currency you have, on your corpse, which means there is very real incentive to go back and do the corpse run. And because you have your worn gear, then that's actually feasible to fight back and get back where you were to retrieve those things. Um, what happens if a real life emergency comes up and you can't play for 2 weeks? We're thinking about that. We have solutions for that as well, and we'll talk about that more in the future too. And then finally, when you die, you're going to take a durability hit to your worn equipment. Durability is a very important aspect of controlling the economics to a degree. Obviously, there's several examples of how durability has been done in the past that we have to look through, and but then there's also ways to evolve that and make that more specifically what we need for Pantheon to achieve that goal. So when you die, that's another part of the consequence is the gear that you have on. It's going to take a durability hit, and after a while, you're going to need to address that. Um, and that makes up the current plan for the death penalty. And I started the way I did just to remind everyone that there's a reason behind the things that we're doing. It's everything from the economy to the social implications to core play sessions, but ultimately everything runs through that filter of those main tenets, which is we want Pantheon to be a challenging game. We want it to really instill tension, on the edge of your seat moments where you pull off glorious things that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And you really have some significant losses and defeats. And that's all part of making this game memorable and creating those shared experiences. So leave it at that.
Can you D-level?
You can ask that.
I thought I was going to be the one to ask. I'm shocked that you asked that, Ben. I think he wants to get in on the bean dropping.
So, man,
Let's
Put 'em
guys,
on the
let's say this. We want to implement this in a way that you're going to enjoy it. So let's leave some of that for you to try out and let us know what you think about it. So moving along then, let's go into the patch notes. Dave, you have a song for us?
Nathan Napon made an amazing video. We need to get that on here
Oh,
soon.
yeah.
But in the meantime, we got some patch notes.
that was
Brilliant.
excellent.
Yeah, it was shockingly good. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think I've ever heard you hit a note like that. I mean, that's some like serious falsetto
Yeah.
land up there.
Well, I've been listening to my BGs, so.
All right, so
Later, by the
for
way.
this month, this has been, first of all, this has been a very, very, very busy week, as you can imagine, with some of the things that are coming up very soon. So I actually have not had a chance to sit and actually put a list together. So I'm doing this more in real time. So bear with me. Uh, but this is something that we love to do, and I know all of you really appreciate. So um, we, I'm just going to go through the list here and apologize in advance to myself and the team if I share things that I shouldn't share yet, because it's real time mode.
There's not even a buffer. Like I can't bleep anything out. It's like
No, I'm doing this intentionally to make you nervous.
Yeah, right. That's what
I
you get.
expect to see some sweat as we get
okay,
through this.
here we go.
That's what you get for putting him on the spot for the de-leveling question.
Yeah, this is payback.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't answer it.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So we've had in preparation for the shaman and the dire lord being, kind of front and center as we open this up. There's been some really good shoring up of those abilities. We've had some really nice internal testing sessions on those two classes. The abilities, the ability line upgrades, the mastery upgrades as well. All those getting a lot of work and love. There's been significant blocking progress on the grandfather thorn in Silent Plains. All right, scrolling down here. Fixed resizing issues with the chat and the combat windows. We have a fix for a race-specific condition error on the client. Added some cool things to some of the zones by way of like POIs. Lots and lots of perception pings going in. That's another thing. I didn't say this when it came to perception earlier, but the role of the perception ping, I'm so tempted to like personify it sometimes, because it really does begin to feel almost like this companion for the keeper. And the more and more that we've been able to layer those perception pings in, giving you insights and heads ups about the things in the environment that you're seeing, it really is feeling pretty wonderful. We had several fixes to the ability bar, and then a pretty significant refactoring of the inventory system. And one of the things I'm most excited about, uh, is our pre-alpha testers just experiencing so many of the mundane things when we think of MMOs and we think of just quality of life and polish when it comes to, you know, interacting with your inventory, interacting with the different inventory-based elements, the responsiveness of the statistical information and how quickly those things update, and there's just a flow and a polish that we just honestly have come to expect in the games that we've been able to enjoy for so many years, and so to be able to um, see these aspects of the game getting to that point is really refreshing, really exciting to see. Some animation updates, just some highlights. Um, we've started getting in several of the two-handed weapon animations that go with, several of the two-handed abilities. Wanting to have, whether it's a warrior or whether it's a dire lord or whatever it may be, who are wielding two-handed weapons. When you have a warrior using strike of breaking will look different when you're wielding a two-hander versus wielding a one-hander. And so starting to get some of these two-handed animations in, it's been really good. For several for the Dire Lord, got several new casting animations in as well. Some really cool, like just instant cast animations, give those abilities some more punch. Let's see. Had some updates to the character selection and creation screens, which are going to be cool.
Yeah, props to Jared on all the UI stuff. That I think it's such a unsung hero with all the stuff that he did for the user interface stuff, including the character creation page.
So are you going to sing
Indeed.
it if he's unsung? This is going to become a thing now, man. Just saying.
Great question. Is that a no, David?
I only sing passion.
Okay. That's fair.
One hit wonder.
There's been, we've in probably 2-3 months ago when we did a couple of streams where we highlighted some of the inventory, the user interface updates. Really, really happy with where all the user interface elements have gotten at this point, and just kind of the coverage and also the normalization. UI is all about consistency and clarity, and so whether it's like font sizes, font types, just a lot of good normalization across the board to get those in shape. Lots more blocking when it comes to silent planes and some of these other areas that been worked on.
Spoiler: we're working on Silent Plains. I don't think they knew that.
What are you talking about?
Did they? Maybe they did.
Did you say something?
Nope. Moving on.
Real time.
Oh, sorry. This question keeps coming up. I'm just going to answer it now. While you find your place in your notes here, in terms of the website, we're nearly there. I know I said that a little while ago, but we really are. We ended up going a bit deeper than we initially planned, but for good reason. Like we found some really cool things that we wanted to put in there. So yeah, it's going to be really really soon. So it is coming. Fret not, it will be here, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, that's going to be a good time. Time. Another significant win this month was getting in the. I think we hinted on this when we did the big perception system stream, where we showed the storyline mechanics and kind of walked through that storyline. I think we discussed then that some of the functionality that we showed in that stream was representative, and that when it came to clicking the root or came to clicking the mushrooms, we actually went in and hand placed like a trigger on some of them to be able to demo what that would be like. But ultimately, and as with most things that are very iterative, the goal was always to be able to assign those triggers, if you will, to the actual mesh itself. And so instead of having to hand place like an area around each and every root or a subset of roots, now on the actual like mesh itself, the 3D object itself, we can apply a script that allows that entire mesh to be selectable. So whether you are hovering over the bottom or the top or anywhere on it, and even with some, buffer to we don't want pixel hunting. And we read a lot of that after that stream that, oh, it's just going to be me, 10 inches away from my screen, just like trying to get. That's not at all what we want. We want you to use your imagination, use your creativity, use some critical thinking here and there, but not to the degree that you're literally uh, you know giving up on the whole experience because you can't find it. If there's something to find, then we want it to be very easily findable once you've gotten to the point where you're able to find it. Another thing about the perception system is, there are several aspects and abilities that keepers have that we've just simply not shown yet and highlighted yet that contribute to their ability to discover things. One ability in particular that allows them to kind of see through the veil, if you will. That is part of how they're going to be able to uncover some of these things, which also is uh, along the lines of not any interest in anyone pixel hunting, but using these iconic abilities that keepers will have to do those activities. Lots of nice updates, fixes, and just general polish on the visual effect system, the audio systems. Just back when we did the animation stream where we talked about synchronizing like the movements and the strikes and the numbers and that data animation VFX audio layer. We highlighted then mainly the data and the animation layer, and then just ongoing from there. Lots of work being done on the sound effects, the visual effects to make all of those aspects come together harmoniously. And yep. What have you
Well,
guys been loving
well,
as you've been
I have
playing
a
and
question
testing?
actually, because I don't know the answer to this, and I'm curious. I missed who said it because it was so far back in the chat, but somebody had when we were talking about quests, they wanted to know if quest sharing was in the plans. Meaning, if I have a quest and you and I group up together, can I easily
Mhm.
share that quest with you?
Yeah, I think we've answered that one before, and the simple answer is just it depends. There will be criteria that governs that. Are there any prerequisites to the quest? You don't want anyone to leapfrog over the quest process, but if it's a fresh task and someone else joins your group and they don't have it, then yeah, absolutely.
Okay, folks, we have a few more minutes for any more questions and answers, and then we'll wrap her up.
You're just trying to get out from me sharing something I shouldn't share here, aren't you? Hustle it along.
Was there anything big or that you left out? Feel free.
We have a few minutes of muted audio that you can stare at our faces for the next
Yeah.
6 minutes. Enjoy.
Yeah,
Um,
there's
Oh yeah, just going back on the new website, I see those questions are still coming up. So we said this last time too, but the forums, I know you guys want new forums. It's not going to be in this first phase of the new website, although we are trying to prettify it a little bit, so it should at least be bit more user friendly for you. In the
let's do
meantime,
a
until we get
let's
the
do
next.
let's do a written patch notes things that we can put out later so we can get to some Q&A.
Yeah. Okay.
hopefully we can get that up on the site soon. All that good stuff get up there. That's the great thing about the new website is just news is so easy to post. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
um, and then also Ben, I think it's with the website coming in multiple phases, the lore stuff, all the signature characters, the map, all that stuff that'll be in phase 2 also.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason being for that, we're really doing this push for pre-alpha 5 shakeout and pre-alpha 5 proper. And it just didn't we want to do a good job when we deliver the lore, and we just didn't want to take a lot of our lore writers' time with it, given that they're in there right now writing quests and implementing quests and storylines and stuff. So it didn't make too much sense to use up those resources right now. But yeah, we'll have the lore and story and all of that cool stuff coming.
We talked too recently about making that more of a recurring part of just our streaming, where we can highlight, specific aspects of the lore of the game world. We've mentioned Silent Plains multiple times in the stream. Might as well mention it again. But there's just such amazing, like, moments and historical, like, people, places, and things that occurred there, and so much so that there's a amazingly large narrative to tell there, but there's all of these little specific things that would be wonderful to just do a short highlight on. And so, yeah, that's something I know we're gonna talk about that more and figure out how to do that.
And shameless plug, but Justin J.N. Gerhardt will be on the developer roundtable tomorrow for the VIPs, which will release later on. So he'll have some good answers and some good lore tidbits tomorrow.
Questions. Let's do questions. What questions we got?
Now I got to go back and scroll. My chat has been really strange. So, okay, you're not going to love this one either, but I'm going to ask it anyway. They want to know when Fragile Hacks wants to know when we're going to see racial actives.
Yeah. That's a good question. I know that we had said we were going to have those at the beginning of the year, or towards the beginning of the year, and it just continually is not. It's not. What's the best way to put it? There's a way that we like to do significant reveals like that, and there's kind of a fullness and a finality in terms of like how it is presented, and making sure that it's cohesive and full and final. And with everything that we've been doing to get ready for testing, there's just not been an opportunity to set that aside and do that justice and really do that fully. And so it's important, and it's something that we want to get out there. And it's something like at the beginning of each week, I'm like, okay, I really need to, put the wheel in motion to just get that done, especially if done in the sense of like getting it, kind of ready to be handed off to the rest of the team to put together, as far as like the art and the different things that we want to do, getting ready for the website. It just hasn't been the right time for that to be priority yet. So, but they will have racial actives, and they're coming. Just don't know when yet.
Xanafel wants to know, will crafters be able to repair gear damaged from dying?
Oh,
Yes,
durability.
but the manner is something that we'll talk about later. But it's definitely and it's there's definitely a lot of ways to make that really cool. Make that a really cool aspect of the crafting profession, more than just spitting out repair kits and sending people off with repair kits. We'll talk about that more soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We like to get together with you, and when we like these opportunities when we can get together with you and just chat a little bit, take some of your questions, show you what we've been up to. Just as a reminder, somebody in chat, actually, who was it? I gotta give a shout out because I had a nice little chuckle when you brought it up. Oh, where was it? Toadman Bear. Is Pantheon a crowdfunded game whereby patrons can contribute and become VIPs to participate in upcoming alphas and support the VR team? Toadman Bear, yes. Pantheon is a crowdfunded game whereby patrons can pledge to become VIPs and participate in alphas and upcoming betas. So go on over to pantheonmmo.com, check out the pledge page, see if there's anything that you like in there, and help support the development of this upcoming MMO. Thanks everybody for coming. This is Ben Dean, producer, signing off.
Oh, am I supposed to sign off?
Is that how we do this?
That was
Go ahead.
And crickets.
Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.
Bye, guys. See you soon.